Hour 2 Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, Dave Feschuk, Michael DiStefano, a.k.a. Al's brother. Al's brother will have another rendition of The Filter in about a half an hour. There's got to be another Cena take in there, another wrestling take.
I mean, I could come up with one.
You have to have
one.
I
do
now.
have takes.
Okay, think of
wrestling.
one. You have half an hour. It doesn't necessarily have to be Cena, but that Cena take has caused such a stir. You have to have that, I think, in every single one of these.
Yeah, I mean, people online, like, yesterday were still talking about it. And that's the thing, wrestling, like, people have takes when it comes to that sport, I guess, if that's what we're going to call it.
Sports entertainment.
TV show, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
People got takes when it comes to wrestling.
Yeah, they do. And I've seen some people agree with you, a lot more disagree with you. But, yeah, we'll have more on that in about a half an hour. Barry Trotz coming up here in a moment. England just beat the Netherlands 2-1. Ollie Watkins scored in the 90th minute to make it 2-1, and England's through to the final to play Spain. So that's going to be electric. And what the beauty of a goal like that, a moment like that, is I'd say in the next hour we're going to see videos start to go viral of pubs throughout England going crazy when he scored. Right, all the beers thrown.
It'd be like the
air.
meme, but in real life.
Yes,
like it's actually going to happen again.
Real life. Like there'd be pubs all over Toronto that would be happening. There'd be Dutch pubs where it'd be the opposite. There'd be English pubs where they'd be going crazy. I was at a place, I think it was at a Boston Pizza actually, when they were playing the group, the round of 16. The groups, it was round of 16 where they went to penalties, I believe it was that game. And Bellingham scored late. Remember that helicopter kick or whatever to push it to extra time? And then Kane scored in extra time. They won 2-1. That was it. And there were a bunch of English supporters in there, and they were so angry with the way it was being played because this is the magical thing about any run in pro sports, regardless of what it is, where it's a single elimination, a best of 7, club stage, international. Bellingham doesn't score there. They're out.
Yeah.
Like he scored in the 90th minute or 91st minute to tie the match, to push it to extra time, and now they're in the final.
Incredible.
Like it's that thin of a margin if you want to go on a crazy run.
Yeah, it is.
And that's what happened.
That's the beauty of it. But hey, man, for all the people absolutely banging on Gareth Southgate, like he takes more abuse than
he's loving life
any
now,
coach that I've ever witnessed on social media, because England fans have incredibly strong opinions about the way he's coaching this team, but 2 straight Euro finals got him to the World Cup quarterfinals.
Seems pretty good. It seems to be working out pretty well, I would say, for the English. So,
I mean,
England-Spain final this weekend, and that means the Netherlands will play France, I guess. Who's Canada in that match? Because Canada losing to Argentina. Canada's off to the third place match. Netherlands? Is that the Netherlands?
I guess. Like France made it to the World Cup final this past couple of years ago.
2 years ago, yeah.
So I guess they'll probably come in as the favorite, I would think.
I would think so, yeah. Although they haven't been really scoring, but they did the other night. So there you go. Everything's all set at the Euros, and as we mentioned, tough night for Canada last night, but overall a great experience at Copa America. Kevin Kilbane will join us into the 6 p.m. hour. Barry Trotz coming up here in a moment. Nashville Predators. They've basically stolen the headlines. Although the Stamkos story was more about him leaving Tampa than where he was going.
Yeah.
Right? Like overwhelmingly, it's been about how could Tampa screw that up, or why would Tampa want that, how ruthless they are, how could they not come to terms, 16 years, captain, 2 cups. And it happened so quickly where leading up to July 1st, it still felt as if somehow they would work this out.
Yeah.
And not only did they not work it out, immediately it's like, that guy's going to Nashville. He didn't wait 10 days.
Yeah, you know what?
I thought he might wait some time and fly around and check. No, he said, screw it, I'm going to Nashville.
So I think what it is there was no sweepstakes. Like usually there's a sweepstakes and it's like, all right, what's going to happen? Like remember when Brad Richards hit free agency?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, people flying into New York and doing presentations. I think Tavares did the same thing.
Up in Mississauga.
Yeah, he had people there too.
I'll go to Newport Sports head office.
And you kind of assumed, all right, maybe Stammer will do the same thing. But no, like 1201 came on July 1st. And it's like, Stamkos is a Nashville Predator. It's like, oh, all right.
Yeah, it was a quick turnaround.
Yeah, and he said basically they wanted me. Like they showed interest in me in a way that hint, hint, nudge, nudge, Tampa Bay Lightning did not.
Yeah, you would think a lot of teams would have shown interest in him. So it would not have been exclusively Nashville. There had to be a connection there. And I think I can understand what it would be. Nashville's a good team. They were a playoff team last year. Burnett's a really good coach. Great city, good taxes. We keep talking about that. I mean, he has been used to that for a long time.
Yes.
But it's in the West. I could also see him not really wanting to, butt heads with Tampa or stay in the division or something like that. Like, this feels like a pure break because he's going to Nashville. Or if he signed in Florida or with the Leafs or something, it would be almost feel spiteful. Like, Tampa pushed me out. I'm coming again.
I would have appreciated that.
It would have been a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
But this is more fine. Screw it. I'm moving on completely. I'm going somewhere else. And I'm going to the West, and he's in a division there where
it's a perfect fit, too.
It's a good fit. They need goal scoring.
That's all they need. I mean, they've got a world-class goaltender in UC Saros. They've got one of the best defensemen in the league in Roman Josi. The one thing that they've really lacked, and Philip Forsberg's done a good job. He's a 40-goal scorer. He'll score, but they needed someone else. Like, he was really the only one who was really able to put some pucks in the back of the net. Now you add in Steven Stamkos. You add in Jonathan Marchessault, who, 42 goals this past year.
Yeah, he's a 40-goal scorer.
You're adding a lot of goals.
Brady Shea on defense,
Brady
too.
Shea on the blue line to kind of, I guess, replace what you lost in Ryan McDonough.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Trotz has done a really good job of kind of putting this team, back in a driver's seat when you look at what they could do in the Western Conference.
Yeah, they're going to be fun to watch. We should look this up on FanDuel. Take a look at where the odds stand for them to either win the Central or win the West, or it may be too early for us to really take a look at point projection or win-loss projection. But Nashville would have been expected to be a playoff team anyway, and they obviously only boosted those chances with what they did on July 1st, where I'd suggest they stole the headlines. That became the story. Stamkos, Marchessault, Shea. And where are they going from here in Nashville? And the man that was kind of leading the charge in terms of getting these guys to sign the dotted line would be the GM of the Nashville Predators, and that would be Barry Trotz. And Barry joins us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. How you doing, Barry?
Good. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon. Thank you for doing this. And, we were talking about the Stamkos situation. And, from our standpoint on the outside looking in, it was more about him leaving Tampa as opposed to where he went. And it happened so quickly. We thought, okay, when it didn't work out with Tampa, maybe he'd take his time. He did not take his time. He committed to you guys really, really quickly. Obviously, he had a great appreciation for your pitch. Can you take us inside the pitch? What was it that made it so enticing for Stamkos and made him not wait too long to sign and say, I'm coming to Smashville?
Well, I think probably having Ryan McDonough there, for 2 years previously, I think obviously Ryan, has great respect for what we tried to do in Nashville, and then I think as Ryan said, he had absolute blast when he was there, and asked that I move him back to Tampa if that was possible, and I didn't even know if it would be. But Julian said that he would want Ryan back, and then we worked out a deal from there. And then obviously with the Stamkos thing, that was I've had relationships with Stammer in the past with the couple of worlds, the Worlds a couple times earlier in his career, and then later in his career at the World Cup of Hockey. So we knew each other a little bit, and then obviously we went to the conference finals when I was with the Islanders a couple times. So you gain such a great respect for the guys that you compete against all the time. And I think he saw that what we were doing in Nashville, how we treated people, the city, all the things that we had to offer. I think you're looking at guys like Roman Josi and Philip Forsberg and us re-signing UC Saros. There were some good players, and then having a real deep pool of kids coming for the future. I think it made a lot of sense for Stammer to make the move to Nashville.
Well, I mean, you're wearing a new hat over the last couple of years since you've taken over as general manager, being a long-esteemed head coach in the league. Like, how much more do you like being able to, I guess, have the final say in how you approach free agency? Because you've been arguably the most aggressive general manager these past couple of years since you've taken over.
I guess that comes with being a coach. I think you have less patience, probably, and I don't know. I think probably I don't look at it that way, having a final say. I just think what we're trying to do is do something special for Nashville. And want to winning a cup. I sort of come full circle being the first head coach in Nashville and then returning back to Nashville. So that at the end of my career and Nashville's been my home. So I probably look at it a little different, that I want to bring that cup to Nashville. That was something that I always wanted to do as a coach there, and I wasn't able to do it. So I feel like I've got a responsibility to arm my coach with as many tools as possible to bring a cup to Nashville, and hopefully we can do that in sometimes in the future here. We were really aggressive. Obviously, the last 2 years we made some bold decisions. I think that's come from coaching. You just make the decision and move on and learn to deal with it. And I think my whole thought process going into free agency, we wanted to have a real good draft. We had a real deep draft. I think we had 6 or 7 picks in the first 3 rounds. So we loaded up pretty good with some really quality players for the future. But my first priority to our team is when Brian McDonough's hole was created last year. In the spring, I said to the veteran players, I created that hole. It's my responsibility to fill that hole, and I will do that. And that was sort of my first priority. And then the second priority was to add some more offense to our especially our forward group. And I think we were able to do that. Obviously, getting 2 40-goal scores, I wouldn't imagine that going into it. I just think that our management group stayed on top of things, figured out where the pieces were sort of going to fall, and then we made our play on the guys. And it fortunately for us, we picked up some really quality people. I was always looking for serial winners. Obviously getting a captain in Stamkos, and obviously getting Marchessault, who's been a playoff MVP just like O'Reilly is. Those Conn Smythe type of guys. Those are invaluable for their lessons that they've learned on their journey. So, and then I think what you're going to see is we fixed our top 6, and then it allows our young guys to slowly marinate, to move up the ladder, and I build a top 9 as some of these players start to age out. Our younger guys should be marinated and ready to go. So I think hopefully the plan is in place, and hopefully we can just make sure that looks like a better hockey team on paper, but I know this, you're going to need the buy-in, you're going to need the understanding, the workload, the commitment from all the players to have success. So that's where we stand today.
Barry, so up here north of the border, we look at your success luring some free agents this offseason. We look at another year going by and a Canadian team not winning the Stanley Cup, but it's 30 plus years and counting. And we look at another team from a no-tax state claiming the trophy. As a GM in a no-tax state in Tennessee, how much of a selling point is that in your favor to be able to sort of bring that to the attention of would-be free agents and acquisitions?
Well, I think when it is an advantage because your dollar goes a little bit farther. There's no question. It is a little bit of advantage. But when you talk to Steven Stamkos or Marchessault or the players that are serial winners, guys that have gone deep, have had deep, good careers and have made a lot of money, it doesn't go that far. But it does help probably the middle group a little bit. But for the elite players, the top players, they're just looking for a place that are serious about winning, want to win, and fit in their window. So it is for some guys, but the guys that are usually leading your teams and being the big difference makers, I don't think it's that big of a difference. I think it's more for the guys that are sort of in the second and third tier in your group.
With Barry Trotz, the GM of the Nashville Predators. So Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault, Brady Shea, your offense up front, I think the face of the offensive group for you for quite some time now has been Philip Forsberg, who's a right shot winger, Marchessault right shot winger, Stamkos right shot, capable of playing center, has been more of a winger, though, later in his career. I'm curious how you see Andrew Brunette and company. Like, how do you mobilize this group? How do they all fit? Stamkos, Marchessault, Forsberg, right shot, wingers who can score. How do you make all this work in your lineup?
Well, I think it's for us. It works. I'll leave that up to Andrew. Believe it or not, I don't get too involved in that. Only when I'm asked. Mm-hmm. But they make it work. They'll make it work because those guys. The one thing that all those guys, they can play multiple positions, even though they've been, on the right wing for a good portion of their maybe the last couple of years or what have you. Like Stammer can play probably all three positions and talk to him. Marchessault's played both sides at times, and he doesn't mind it at all. And we're a team that slashes across, so just being on your on either wing, it really doesn't make much of a difference to them. I could see, we've had our big line of O'Reilly and Nyquist and Forsberg were a really good line last year. It was a great line last year. It might not be a good line this year, so you could see maybe a piece from there playing with those two other guys. So I'm going to leave that up to Andrew to figure out. But I do know this. We got some good quality people, guys like Tommy Novak and Cody Glass, as well as, Colton Sissons, people like that still in our lineup to give us some really good depth through the whole lineup. And then I think we've got a good identity line that doesn't mind crashing and banging a little bit. So we got enough pieces, and you're going to need all of them if you're going to have any success during the regular season and into the playoffs. So I'll leave that up for Andrew to figure out.
Such an active 2 or 3 weeks in the NHL, and now we're into almost the middle of July. Everything quiets down. How much activity would you expect to be involved in? How much activity do you think is still left around the NHL between now and the opening of camp in a couple months?
I don't think there's a lot. I think if you look at most teams, I think most teams are just buttoning up the last player or two in their lineup, and then obviously there's some arbitration cases. Not very many. I think we have one. But I think pretty well you get your business done before the trading deadline, or not trading deadline, before free agency. You sort of figure out what you want to add, see if you can add it, and then a few days after, and maybe a week after, and then things settle down for a couple of weeks, and then you'll see you get second wave. I would say like almost at the end of July, early August, of people who haven't found a seat yet, still looking, and you'll get some bargain shopping then.
Well, we'll let you get back to, I guess, this 2-week lull, Barry, before you get back at it, maybe at the end of the month or early August. But we appreciate you doing this. I know it's into the off season. We really appreciate you joining us. Thank you for this.
Anytime, guys. You guys do a great job.
Appreciate it. There's Barry Trotz, the GM of the Nashville Predators, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Build your next dream Toyota at Maple Toyota. And check out Maple Toyota's pre-owned inventory arriving daily. It's time to Toyota. Visit mapletoyota.com. I think, that's one of the 32 guys with a seat at the table who's telling you what I think most people know. And I think Leaf fans would hear that and say, yeah, I understand what that means. If you're going to make massive changes, it's at the draft or on July 1st or right before it. Like, that's when you decide this is what we're doing that's going to be drastically different, or, wow, this is going to take a lot of time. At a minimum, what you get is reports that it's close. Okay, talks broke off. Then they were, then a month from now, maybe they come back to the table. Fine, we'll meet that price. Fine, we'll make it a first-round pick. But a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of team building, whatever your philosophy is going to be, it's determined before July 1st.
Right. 100%.
And if it hasn't, and it hasn't leaked out that you're even thinking of it, this is the team set.
Are you?
So I guess what I'm indicating,
suggesting something, Hayes?
What I'm saying is we're running it back in Toronto. Like that's what's coming. Like
Didn't it sound like when we saw Keith Pelly and Brendan Shanahan and Brad Treliving standing up there? Shanahan said a lot of things. Now, he uses a lot of words. He takes a lot of diversions down different roads as he answers questions. But there were a lot of answers that sounded like we had a lot of patience, and then your patience runs out. And it doesn't sound like the patience has run out, or the patience has run out. They can't do anything about it.
That could
the players have all the control.
Yeah, it could be the latter.
Yeah.
But either way, whatever the reasoning is behind it, I think Leaf fans should be bracing for the core 4, Morgan Riley, the core 5, the guys who've been here for 6 years, 6+, like they're all going to be back.
Yeah.
They're all going to be here.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
At least one more year. I mean,
yeah, and then who knows? Then there is some flexibility,
we'll see,
and
but
they'll make decisions on that. But yes, you can run it back for another year. So everything might have been on the table, including the idea of bringing everything back. And I guess that was the decision in the end.
But
whether their hands were tied or not, this is where we're probably going with the Leafs.
At least there was a change behind the bench. So there is something that changed. Like last year, nothing changed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, okay, the GM, but we all knew that was probably the last thing that people cared to have change was Kyle out. I mean, if someone wanted to see either the coach or wanted to see something in the core 4 on the ice change, and we didn't see it. And they went to the exact same season, same issues, couldn't score, power play was terrible, exact same problem. And now we'll see if the new coach can come in and change some of that.
Yeah, and that is a substantial move, and it will. But that's one that doesn't have any effect on the salary cap. What actually happens on the ice?
No,
like Berube factors into how they're going to play and the systems and who's on the ice. But once the puck drops and they're playing, it's on the big boys to get it done.
Same dudes.
Yeah, it's the same guys, and so I would expect the Leafs will still be active. Like I could see them making a trade or two between now and the opening of free agency. I think they'll sign a couple of PTOs, like standard procedure that they do every single year. They're still probably looking to fill out their roster a little bit in certain ways. We'll see what happens with Hakanpää, if he ends up signing or not.
It's a weird situation still.
Yeah.
Like how we still don't have clarity on that. It's been, 10 days?
It's obviously the knee issue, and it's got to be the physical. It's got to be something going on with the doctors, or maybe the Leafs went back and said, we got to make it a different type of deal. I'm not sure what's going on there.
So it was a 2-year deal when it was reported, a 2-year deal. So, yeah, maybe now with this knee, maybe they're like, maybe a 1 year, see what's up, and we can revisit it later on if things are okay.
Yeah.
Maybe like a Connor Brown type of thing where there's a bonus baked into the following season, like they did last year in Edmonton.
Based on how many games you play.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I could see that possibly being the case. But, yeah, the Leafs, again, they'll I wouldn't be surprised if they made a trade or two. Like, I wouldn't be surprised at all, but it's not going to be a massive trade.
No, I don't think we're seeing the Mitch Marner trade.
Maybe
can you
Nick
get off David Kamp's money?
That's what I'm saying. Like, could they trade Camp? Maybe Yarncroke is a guy they look to trade for a different position of need.
Liljegren. Still, I think Liljegren's. I don't think it's.
Why'd you re-sign him if you wanted to trade him?
Yeah, that's
you don't get because I think he still holds value. Like I think he still holds value.
But they could have traded his rights to someone that wanted him. Like that next team could have negotiated with him. If there was a team out there that was dying for Timothy Liljegren, he would have been traded. There's no team that's dying for Timothy Liljegren. I don't know what just happened.
Okay.
Is Timothy Liljegren our new engineer?
Is that like an ominous threat?
Yeah.
Some sort of a cloud?
Sorry, Timothy. I apologize. Every team is seeking your services.
That's right, Timothy.
I'll never say that again. But if they wanted to trade him, they could have traded him. Or I guess what I should say is, if someone wanted him, they could have had him.
Yeah.
And if you didn't want him, why'd you sign him?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
it's actually a very strange play.
To me.
But I think he's got value in the regular season. I do. I just question whether he has value in the playoffs.
Can't trust him.
That's the problem with a lot of guys on this team.
Right, but this is to a point where it's like I don't think he plays in the playoffs because in the playoffs, if you're a defenseman, you either have to be you got to have size and physicality. But you have to have speed, or you have to supply some offense.
And I agree with you.
And he doesn't check any of the boxes.
So then, why do you continue to bring him back into the fold?
That's the question.
Like, why are you wasting $3 million of valuable cap space on Timothy Liljegren?
I would guess they wanted to spend it elsewhere, and they got no's. I would guess they were in on, whoever it is. There were probably other guys that they were calling on. I get the impression they wanted Tanev,
Montour,
Ekman-Larsson, and another guy.
Right. Yeah.
Whether it was Zadorov, who priced himself out, or
a lot of guys priced themselves.
Yeah, like a number of guys priced themselves out. Pesci, whoever it was.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, well, we got to fill out our roster. We need a 6 or 7, and that's Timothy Liljegren. And they decided to keep him in the end. So, because I think put it this way, if Tanev came, Zadorov came, Ekman-Larsson came, they would not have signed Timothy Liljegren. I don't believe they would have. But I think it got to a point where they realized we got to figure out who's going to play here. And I think come the trade deadline, they'll probably look to upgrade at that position like they do every single year.
Yes.
And more than likely, it will knock him out of the top 6. Like That's my projection on what I think will end up happening. But we'll see. But I think he's got value in the regular season. I think he's comfortable in regular season play. He's proven that he's uncomfortable when it comes to playoff time. It's a completely different game.
It is, but that's
different
the
game.
problem that we have here in Toronto. The regular season's not the issue.
Mm-hmm.
It's can you get it done in the playoffs when you got to play a little harder, when you got to beef up a little bit. He hasn't been able to do that yet. Now, I will say, different coach. So maybe Berube's like, all right, let's see if I can get my hands on him, if we can do something. Because, he was the first-round pick, right? And there's been flashes where Liljegren's looked okay.
Relatively young still.
Yeah, I think he's 25 years old. So, just entering into his prime. Mm-hmm. So they're betting that he gets it. This year, maybe he gets it. I think he's only played 200 and something games in the NHL.
Yeah.
In that range, I would imagine. So maybe under the tutelage of a new coach, they're hoping that, all right, we can unlock something in Timothy Liljegren. And if he plays with a guy like OEL, maybe that will help him as opposed to having to be, saddled up with Mark Giordano, who at the end of his career didn't really offer up a whole lot and the speed wasn't there. Now you got OEL, a little bit of a better partner too.
Should be. It's a great theory, House brother.
Well, that's all I got.
All come together.
That's all I got is theories and takes, boys. Theories and takes.
We're coming up with the filter with you, House brother, and I expect some heat from you in terms of what kind of takes you want to send out to the world. But they have to filter through Feschuk and I. We'll let you know if you can send it, end it, or basically deactivate your account.
Yeah.
And we will tag Elon Musk in that and make sure that you're never allowed back on the platform ever again. All right?
There's a lot of people that wish I was not on that platform anyways. So.
You're not alone on that, House brother. I'm right there with you, buddy. Kevin Kilbane in studio in about an hour. Also, Bill Armstrong, GM of the Utah Hockey Club.
Our guy.
Coming up. Yes, the Utah Hockey Club coming up in about a half an hour. So we're excited about that. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN Plus.
No filter?
You have no filter.
That's
quite obvious.
That's true. That's a good
Just
thing.
say whatever comes into your mind.
Yeah.
You don't really modulate your feelings at all. I'll tell you.
It's a good thing for me, but it's a bad thing for water.
All right, Al's brother. You really caused a scene the other day.
Yeah.
This filter thing, man, it really, really bothered a lot of people. And specifically what you had to say about John Cena and the idea that he is a Mount Rushmore wrestler.
Stand by that 100% still.
Right.
Wow.
And furthermore, who you would put ahead of, including Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Ric Flair,
Triple H, Shawn Michaels.
The Undertaker.
The Undertaker, The Streak. Yeah, I do. I completely agree. I mean, here's the thing about those guys, not to rehash the conversation. They were all around, and they were very capable of taking the mantle as the guy through the 2000s. But it was John Cena who came through and said, Undertaker, take a step back. Triple H, take a step back. Shawn Michaels, you're no longer in the equation here. Okay. I'm the guy.
All right.
I'm the guy here.
So I appreciate that you're standing by that take, regardless of how many people are against it. Okay, this is the way it works. You have takes that you want to send out into the world, but they have to filter through Dave and I first. And if we agree with them, we'll say send it. If we disagree, we'll say either end it or delete it. But if we really, really disagree, then we'll say you have to deactivate your account completely, and that's buffoonery, and no one wants to hear from you anymore. So what do you have in store for us?
Well, keeping on the theme of goats, yes. I've got one here, and Sidney Crosby has to be so jealous about how much better the Capitals have done and keeping their window open for Ovechkin, that Crosby just has not been afforded that opportunity with how Dubas has dealt with things in Pittsburgh.
I'm going to have to end that because Washington stinks too.
I like Washington's offseason. Not that I think they're cup contenders.
They're not even
playoff
close.
Teams.
Are they? For sure. I'm not convinced they're a playoff team. They brought in Pierre-Luc Dubois, brother. That alone makes it an F.
And my guy, Andrew Mangiapane.
Okay. Not a bad play. I like Mangiapane. But also, Chychrun. Do you see what they had to give up for Chychrun? Yeah. That's his value around the league. Nick Jensen in a third.
Yeah.
This is not the hype train Chychrun when he was in Arizona. We saw it in Ottawa. They're not that good. So, yes, they made the playoffs last year, to their credit. They kind of held on, and Detroit kind of choked it away, and they got in. But I don't think there's any window open in Washington. I don't believe there's one in Pittsburgh either. So I don't think like Sid looks at what's going on with Ovi in Washington and thinks, wow, I'm so jealous of that because I don't think Washington's even in the conversation.
Yeah, there's just, you have to end that. End that. Do not send that. Because these teams are both going nowhere.
Right.
Hayes' point. Like,
Windows closed.
You know what the Washington Capitals have done since they won the Stanley Cup? They've failed to win a playoff round.
Yeah.
You know what the Pittsburgh Penguins have done since they won the Stanley Cup? They've won one playoff round. So it's just, they're both teams that are drifting in a place that really doesn't end up anywhere because they just don't have the ability to get out of the morass of having all these veterans and no way to really have a pipeline of young guys coming in.
Also, so beholden to that superstar who, in Sid's case, is still the player he was in large ways.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
still
he
a great player.
fought his way into MVP conversation late in the season last year.
Ovi is not, though. Like, Alex Ovechkin has one goal in mind, and that is to score goals and then get off the ice.
Yeah.
Like, he only cares about chasing Gretzky. And I get the impression the whole organization revolves around that.
Well, that's what the moves that they made to me suggest. Like, they're supporting him and giving him players to allow that to happen.
What is Sid still playing for in Pitt, outside of trying to win?
To win.
Okay, but that's not going to happen. Like, Ovi has an individual chase that we're all aware of. He's chasing Gretzky. What is Sid chasing? Outside of the obvious, I get it. We're trying to win like every other player in the league, of course. Like, Ovi would like to win. Ovi would be cool with winning.
Where does Sid sit for, like, points and stuff? Is he close?
You know what? I think what he's chasing is Mario Lemieux's franchise records.
Okay.
He can pass those. He's got I don't even do the quick math. He needs about 120 plus points to pass Mario for the all-time franchise lead. He needs about less than 100 goals to pass Mario.
Okay.
Needs less than 30 assists to pass his assists. So he can become the franchise leader.
Okay, that's
basically every offensive category.
That's sensible.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of speaks to Lemieux how great he was, the fact that Sid still hasn't caught him in any of those categories.
Sidney Crosby.
Sid's played, what has he played, 18 years?
Yeah.
And he's had his injury problems too, but Lemieux had so many injuries and left the game for so long.
Yeah. Like, Sid's already played 300 plus more games than Mario ever did.
And he hasn't caught him.
He still hasn't caught him.
And Sid's one of the great point collecting players of all time.
Yeah.
I think his streak of a point per game is one that I'm sure he takes a lot of pride in, and he should. I believe it's only him and Gretzky that have ever gone as long as he has. I think it's, again, 18 years where he's averaged a point a game. Gretzky, I want to say, did that 18 times.
Yeah.
So I guess he could surpass that. Surpassing Lemieux, like, that's certainly worthy of something. That's worthy of a lot. Like, if you hang it up and you own everything, that obviously would go a long way for Sid.
And I think the Capitals have equipped Ovi more to do that than Sid has been equipped with what the Penguins have done over the last couple. Like, the Penguins, they took away Jake Gensel.
Yes, but they kept Malkin, they kept Letang, which Sid wanted.
Yeah,
like, Sid's got to take some responsibility for that. Like,
keeping the band together.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like he was pretty adamant. Like, I want everyone to stay here. And Gino's played, I believe, every game in the last 2 years as well and put up okay numbers. Letang's game has fallen off.
Yeah.
But, I don't think Washington's that much further ahead, if at all, than Pittsburgh.
As much as you made a big stir this season when you had your Harvey's hot take about get Sid out.
Get him out of there.
Get him out of Pittsburgh. I think there's a lot of evidence to suggest he wants to be just like his idol, Steve Yzerman.
That's what's going to happen.
Play his entire career with one team.
Yep.
And he's quite happy to do that.
Yeah. And listen, that's his right and that's his career and all the best. I mean, I understand where he's coming from. I'd like to see him move on. I would find that very compelling.
At least we'll have him for international hockey.
Yes, exactly, which is a good thing that it's been effectively a decade. I know we had the 16 World Cup, but like what he did in 2010, what he did in 2014, and that's probably his swan song is 2026.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's the cap on it. And it's difficult as you get later into your career to continue to establish legacy markers, right? Where if you pass Lemieux in all those categories, that is something that will be very publicized, what Sid continues to do. If he continues to average a point a game. But if he plays a factor in them winning gold in 2026 and he bookends 2010 with 2026, that's something Gretzky didn't do.
Yeah.
You're right.
I guess Lemieux might argue in 87 and 02.
Canada Cup. Yeah.
I guess you could argue that Lemieux maybe did that, but Sid would be, doing something. I can't imagine anyone's ever done anything like that 16 years apart. Like 87-02 is, I guess, fifth. Maybe we're splitting hairs here.
Right.
But still, that would be pretty substantial in terms of a legacy, in terms of a resume, being able to say, look what I've done consistently throughout my career, been this great.
Yeah. Longevity.
But ultimately, like to your point about there's no window open for Sid to play meaningful games in the NHL anymore, certainly not in the playoffs, but he has meaningful games available to him wearing that maple leaf, the red one.
Well, and I just thought of this because we've all had the conversation, who's going to be the captain in 26. Like, it was a no-brainer in 02 that Lemieux was the captain.
For sure.
Like, no one was suggesting it was someone else's time.
How could it be?
Sakic or something.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Like, also great players who have been around forever that had been under the shadow, of Gretzky and Lemieux. And maybe it's, hey, Mario, you're older here. You're still a good player. But, this is Paul Kariya's team. He's got to. And I get McDavid's different because McDavid is in the same category as Sid, as Mario, as Gretzky. But there was never a doubt in 02 who the captain was. And it was the right decision. It was Mario.
Well, maybe also be the mistake of 98.
That was a part of it, too, where they went young. They said it's Lindros's era and team now, much like McDavid. And as great as McDavid is, and I think he's greater, Lindros in 98 was
he's great.
He was the man.
He was great.
Like, it was get out of this guy's way. The guy just won a hard. They went to the Cup final, just got swept by Detroit, but they were there, I think, in 97. It was like it's his league now. It's his world. Who cares about Gretzky on the team? You got to give it to Lindros. There are similarities between Lindros in 98 and McDavid in 26. For me, I'm not overthinking this. Sid's your captain in 2026.
Yeah.
That's who I would be. I would make sure he takes that on. He's been there. He's done that. McDavid never has. McDavid's never played at an international tournament to the magnitude of an Olympic Games, where Sid has all this experience.
Yeah. Was it 2014 where they were contemplating Taves, though?
Yes.
There was a conversation there.
Well, I think what that was about was more Sid playing the game, like, out of respect to Taves, because he had won 2 cups. He was at the height of his game. He was captain material. And I think the conversation was not necessarily legitimate, like, we're going to give it to Taves. It was, we should have the conversation out of respect to Taves.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't think Taves was ever going to accept it. I think Sid was always going to get it. And I think even Sid, in his typical way, where they always, they don't want to step out of line and be disrespectful. I think he said something like, Taves would be a great captain too. Right. And we're all, of course, paying off.
Team of captains.
Yeah, exactly. But you're right. That was kind of a conversation, but in the end, they got it right. It was
Yes. Yeah.
All right, Alice, brother. What else do you have here?
All right, we'll stick to hockey. We'll stick to this one. I'm not sure why Draisaitl doesn't have an extension yet. I mean, he's blank check worthy, in my opinion. Pay the man.
Yeah, I would say send it if you're in Edmonton. I don't think there's any question about that. I don't think the negotiation is stalled because of Edmonton's ambition to pay him or their possible anxiety to overpay him or give him 20%, which isn't going to happen. No player gets 20%.
No.
Draisaitl's going to be no different. I would assume it's more the Draisaitl camp trying to figure out what he wants to do. Because he did say that on the podium after the game, or I guess when they were cleaning out the locker room. Said, we got to take some time to see what Edmonton wants, what I want. What does he want?
Well, and also what Connor
McDavid wants.
What McDavid
Yeah.
wants.
McDavid's a huge part in this.
Of course.
Like, he's in the shadows determining what's going to happen with all this. Because I don't believe for a second Draisaitl's signing there for more than a year if McDavid's not giving him a clear-cut sign that he's staying too.
Right.
Like, if McDavid goes, I'm still figuring it out, I think Draisaitl will either play out the year or sign a 1-year extension.
How could you
just
do
match
it
up
any
with
other than
McDavid?
that? You're right. Like, unless he gives you the wink, wink, nudge, nudge, I'm staying long term.
Right.
How could you be confident in signing a long term deal in Edmonton?
Well, I mean, it's still a good team. Like, I guess McDavid's the guy there, but you can be the guy. I mean, even without McDavid, like, are they a cup contender? No, but like, it's still a good team. I don't like. For Leon Draisaitl, is he going to follow McDavid wherever he goes? Probably not. He's going to have to choose somewhere else to go.
Well,
and is that team going to be as good? Like, I don't know. Who's going to have cap space to fill in a $15 million player?
I think the elephant in the room is, he's not Canadian. He's not from Edmonton. He's been there a long time. Yes, they're very good. But if McDavid's not there, like, I could see him saying, "What's LA doing?
There are other
What's
places to
Vegas
play.
doing? What's Tampa up to these days?"
yeah.
Vegas would be in there so
That's the
quickly.
nature of the league right now. And for a guy like Draisaitl, why?
You know what?
Is he going to stay in Edmonton his whole career, his whole life? I don't know if he is.
Well, and it puts McDavid in a difficult position because he theoretically doesn't have to make the decision anytime soon, except if his best pal is asking him, "What are you doing?"
And you're right. And he's not a stupid guy. He knows. Where if Draisaitl leaks it out, or the Draisaitl camp leaks out that I'm not sure I'm staying, everyone's going to bypass Draisaitl and go to McDavid.
It
and
must
say,
be because
you're leaving, right?
Yeah.
Like that. It's an amazing.
It's almost like
they're linked.
Well, yeah, it's almost like whatever contract, whether it doesn't come, if it's a 1 year or if it's a multi-year deal, it kind of is telling you what McDavid is going to do, right?
Yes.
If it's not a multi-year deal, well, McDavid must be on the fence. But if this is a long-term deal to get 8 years, it's like, okay, well, McDavid's probably has a tucked away deal in the drawer next July 1st when he's able to sign. That thing's going to get signed too.
Listen, if they can get Draisaitl on an 8-year deal, that means he's going to spend his whole career in Edmonton. That would be amazing for the Oilers, and that would put him at 19 years of service there. I guess he had a 3-year entry level. He's coming off an 8-year deal if he signs another one. I don't see why Edmonton would flinch. In fact, I know they would. Why would they? I mean, there's no reason for that. Exactly. Like I think if Draisaitl called them right now and said, "I want an 8-year deal at $14 million per, full no move, full no trade, 90% bonuses," they'd say, "Absolutely.
Sure.
Where do you want to meet? Like right now, let's do it." I don't think it's about Edmonton, and it won't be about Edmonton a year from now when McDavid's a year out. It's going to be about the players and what they want to do. And I think Edmonton and Jeff Jackson and company, they got to sit and wait. All right, Else, brother. What do you got? Why don't you come back? Why don't we come back?
All
right.
Let's come back with your wrestling take.
Oh, boy.
All right? Let's really tease this. Let's see what Al's brother has in store. All right, Bill Armstrong coming up, GM of the Utah Hockey Club. I love it. And Kevin Kilbane will join us. England beating the Netherlands today 2-1. They scored the 90th minute to make it 2-1. They are off to the Euro final against Spain on the weekend. And Canada still kind of responding to what happened last night, losing Argentina 2-0. So we'll look back on that match as well. Kevin was in the stadium down in Jersey. So Kevin Kilbane still to come as well. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN Plus. All right, Bill Armstrong coming up, GM of the Utah Hockey Club. Kevin Kilbane. See Rory McIlroy speaking today for the first time since the U.S. Open. I wouldn't say it was defensive, but he tried to explain it. Tough putt, where he was at. He knew where Bryson was off the tee. But he's been chewing on that for weeks.
Yeah.
And he came to the defense of his caddy. I thought he did so eloquently, and that was very appropriate. And he made a good point. When he wins, his caddy gets no accolades. It's only when it goes the wrong way. And ultimately in pro golf, it's on the player is the one that makes the final call, makes the final read, makes the putt, hits the shot. And he's back at the Scottish Open, a tournament he won last year. It's at Royal Troon next week. He's going to have a lot of support over there. I'm really intrigued by what happens here with Rory in the next 2 weeks.
I got a hypothetical for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw this on TikTok, so I want to actually ask you this. And they're talking about it. They're golf fans, and they were saying if you were to compete in the Masters, do like an 18 holes, compete in the Masters, and you had the opportunity to start from the greens, could you win a Masters tournament?
So in other words, my ball drops where? In the middle of the green?
Like from the furthest part of the green.
Could I win the tournament?
Could you win the tournament by just like putting?
Yes. I would run away with that tournament.
You think?
I'd have a green jacket right now.
You believe so?
Yes, I believe so. Do you know how much of an advantage it is to I gotta lag a couple. Think about it on the par fives. I hit a great lag putt and I have an albatross or something. Think about that.
Can you read those greens well enough?
It would be difficult. I'm assuming I have a caddy. Do I get practice rounds? Do I get practice rounds, House brother, in this hypothetical you speak of, or what?
Let's say no.
So I get no help. I get no
show
caddy.
up. Let's say that's the trade-off. You just show up.
I still think I'd win.
You come from jail.
I mean, you're saying everybody else is back on the tee box and he is
playing
on the green.
Yeah.
Yes.
And his stroke one is his first putt.
Yes.
Okay. He'd win.
Of course I would
All
win.
right.
Of course I would win. Now, you probably wouldn't.
No, I would not. I wouldn't even. I'd not even a chance.
Yeah, like
I'd take 10 strokes to put that thing in from there.
It's an interesting hypothetical, but I think if you're a reasonable golfer that has some sort of confidence on the green.
You think an average golfer could win? Like you're an above average golfer.
You know how much
so
of an
yes.
advantage it is to be like if you have any sense of reading greens and undulation and the speed of greens. I mean, the first putt, all it is a lag. You get inside 10 feet, you're putting for eagle or birdie.
That's right.
The whole round.
Like you could 4-putt a few of them.
Yes, you
but
could.
And you're going to 3-putt quite a few.
Sure.
You're still going to win.
Yes.
Three's a great score.
You
on most
3-putt a
of those
par
holes.
5, you're just going to eagle 4 holes.
Yeah, true.
Like if you're 8 under on the par 5s every single day.
How can you lose?
Come on, else, brother. It's.
I couldn't, I definitely know that
No,
I
you
could
10-putt them. You 10 and 12.
You'd be
Yeah.
chunking putts and flashing them off the green. It'd be wild. All right, final hour coming up. Bill Armstrong will join us. Kevin Kilban as well in studio. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.